Hello DragonCrafters, this is Warcrow from DragonCraft Productions and welcome to another video. This time we'll be looking at DreadOut and answer this question. Should you play it or not? I'm a huge fan of horror games and I usually have very high standards for them. To me, a good horror game has more than just one or two jump scares or just art that will make you wimpy. Good horror games should have an atmosphere that makes them eerie and it to actually fit the gameplay of that game. The soundtrack is absolutely crucial to help build this atmosphere, and I'm not talking about just the music, but also the ambient sounds such as background noise or even the footsteps you are making. The next thing that is a much needed element in a good horror game is the story. It needs a stunning plot to be successful. While graphics is always important nowadays, it's something I can personally forgive in such games. If all the other aforementioned aspects of the game really make me feel scared out of my wits, I am sold to that game. Good graphics is just a bonus at that point. That being said, I'm usually bad with horror games because I do get scared and influenced rather easily. Here's the thing though, it's one thing to get me scared, that's easy stuff, but have me dread of what's gonna happen next, that is rare. I have played quite a lot of horror games so far, in many and different subcategories such as survival or gore, etc. But very few have managed to really get to me. One such game was DreadOut. DreadOut is based around ghosts, and more specifically, ghosts based on Indonesian mythology. This game has personally awakened whole new horrors of that world, and a big plus of the game is that developers, Digital Happiness, have done an excellent job in transferring the stories and their look inside the game. You have access to something called Ghostpedia, and as the name suggests, once you have met the requirements, you can see more information about a ghost you have encountered. Now, DreadOut has very similar mechanics to Fatal Frame games or else Project Zero. Instead of an old camera, however, you're equipped with a smartphone, the Iris phone, an absolutely handy phone that really settles for three things: decent flashlight, fighting ghosts, and infinite battery. Seriously, this thing can make the good old Nokia have a good run for its money. Oh, and it also has a huge storage for pictures. But taking a phone call? Good one. But let's divide things and work on them. Story-wise, I think DreadOut is average. You play as Linda, a high schooler with an affinity to sense supernatural things, as it is implied in various moments of the game, though missable, but also in the prologue. The game begins with Linda and her school friends and teacher in a car, and they arrive at a broken bridge. Soon enough, the group start exploring the town that is near and reach school. Now, I don't know about you, but when you find a whole town empty, seemingly abandoned, you don't really go to any places where it's common to find nasty surprises. Sure enough, when you enter the school, everything goes to hell and Linda is left alone to grasp the situation, escape the school and find her group, especially her dear friend Ira. Although a standard opening, it works. However, after that I found the game's storyline to just be there as you push on with it. Nothing is really explained, except what has happened to the town through various notes you find around the world. No idea why your phone can deal with ghosts, how the hell did everything happen, and so on. The characters other than Linda pretty much vanish after you enter school, and when you do find them, well, they're just there to push on with the story rather than tell it. However, to be fair, the concepts and premises of the ghosts are spot on, and what's more, through Linda and her voiceless acting, towards the end you understand more and more of the unsaid story, especially at the ending. Well, the true ending, I guess. I believe that Amnesia: The Dark Descent has completely changed on how we view horror games today, and it wasn't because of the groundbreaking story, or stunning graphics, or superb soundtrack. It was all because of how great the immersion of the game towards the player was. In one word, atmosphere. DreadOut captures that as it utilizes every aspect that it can offer: graphics, soundtrack, gameplay, art, story, and so on, and it tries to bring it to the player in every step they take. Heavily influenced by Fatal Frame in that as well, but unfortunately not as polished as them. While the player indeed feels dread, it's not for the entirety of the game, and once he gets used to the location, his start becomes more and more bold, thus missing out some of the overall atmosphere of the game offers. Overall, DreadOut atmosphere is lacking a few things, especially if you play regularly such games, but it still gets the job done. Quite well, I might add. For example, locations are based on real world ones, such as the school or the town, and the ghosts themselves fit the Indonesian mythology in not only their background, but how people perceive them visually. But they are more creepy than downright scary. Soundtrack is hard to judge. In itself, it didn't leave too much of an impact. Only a handful songs can be truly identified as them when you listen to them. But while you play, it does fit the location and the situation, so it gets the job done. Most ambient sound are executed great, but the game tries to warn you way beforehand that something will happen, so only a handful of times you aren't prepared for what you will encounter. Like I said, it's average but well placed in the game. The gameplay is simple, glitchy at many times, and bloody confusing at others. The concept is very straightforward. You see a ghost coming to you, you throw your phone out, take photos of it, and finally exorcise it after you deal enough damage to it. DreadOut categorizes itself as a puzzle horror game, and many puzzles are solved with a camera, well, all of them mostly. While the game indicates where the puzzle is at and you get the vague idea of how to solve it, it's really buggy, as most of the time you have the solution, but you need a perfect alignment with the camera, or it just doesn't register the command. Usually it's the former though. There are some pretty smart puzzles as well. Mirrors. What I really want to talk about is the characters. Well, to be more specific and honest, just one of them, Linda. The rest never seem to matter to the player, but the tough teenagers become someone important to you as you play on. Linda is quiet, she never talks, but she keeps her calm under any circumstances. Even when she's chased by terrifying ghosts, she's taking like a boss and does battle with them with her trusty phone. I would be screaming like a little girl, but moving on. Linda is shown to be selfless and cares about her friends deeply, probably holding them in higher regard than her own well-being. That is not transferred to the player, but the player might find himself caring a lot about Linda. Sure, she keeps her cool, but she does get scared about what's happening, and you feel that through her. To sum up, DreadOut is a game that you should play, as it delivers to what it set out to do. Albeit a short one, it managed to bring back that kind of horror style games, and the title of the game is spot on, as you feel more dread than actual fear. Thanks for watching folks, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Have a good one.